हेलो, गुड आफ्टरनून, नमस्कार। मेरा नाम है आरजे राज। आप देख रहे हैं 1308th एपिसोड ऑफ नागपुर मोस्ट हैपनिंग फेसबुक लाइव शो, जिसका नाम है राज की बात, विमेन ऑफ द ईयर के साथ। अक्सर लोग ये पूछते हैं कि एक स्त्री क्या कर सकती है। जवाब शायद यही होना चाहिए कि एक आदमी के शर्ट के टूटे हुए बटन को जोड़ने से लेकर एक आदमी के गिरे हुए आत्मसम्मान को जोड़ने का काम एक महिला कर सकती है, एक स्त्री कर सकती है। और इसीलिए ऐसी महिलाओं को, ऐसी स्त्रियों को हम उनका अभिनंदन करते हैं, उनका रिकग्निशन करते हैं इस कार्यक्रम के माध्यम से, जिसका नाम है विमेन ऑफ द ईयर। धन्यवाद करता हूँ पारिक ब्रदर्स जूलर्स का। पारिक ब्रदर्स जूलर्स प्रेजेंट्स राज की बात विमेन ऑफ द ईयर इन एसोसिएशन विद पहनावा बुटीक, नागपुर's बेस्ट स्टोर फॉर women clothing, and I think you should visit their flagship store at Sadar, just beside the governor's koti. Also a big thank you to Antara Multi Services, Hamper Ride Vanidhi Rati, Mampi Reusable Diapers for Children, Money Edge, and of course Cuts Salon. मेरे साथ मेरी आज की मेहमान वो हैं जो 3 साल की उम्र में भारत से अमेरिका चली गई, उसके बाद वापस भारत आना हुआ, और उसके बाद ज़िंदगी ने कुछ ऐसे टर्न्स लिए कि आज वो मुस्कुराते हुए कहती हैं नमस्ते। नमस्ते माधवी जोधपुरकर मेरी आज की मेहमान। मैम नमस्कार, कैसी हैं आप?
बिल्कुल मस्त, राज के साथ हूँ।
3 साल की उम्र में पहले तो ये पूछते हैं कि यू वर बोर्न एज माधवी लोखंडे।
Yes.
You were born in Nagpur.
Yes.
So have you always said that you're a very proud Nagpurian?
Very, very proud Nagpurian. Actually, one Madhavnagar where everybody eats Domino's pizza, that was my home. So I hope everybody's having a good time.
So 3 साल की उम्र में आप अमेरिका चली गई।
Yes.
बहुत छोटी थी जब गई, लेकिन कब रियलाइज हुआ वहां पर जाकर कि अरे मेरा तो बर्थ प्लेस इंडिया है, नागपुर है?
I think I realized it from the beginning because both I was playing with people in my neighborhood. I was very active. My grandparents had the first house on the corner in Madhavnagar. So I realized I left India like on a long, 24-hour plane ride. And I knew my father had gone for University of Pennsylvania on a full scholarship. So I knew from then itself that I was 100% Indian, and I left my motherland. So yes, my mom and I.
So जब वो कौन सी उम्र आई जब माधवी जी वापस इंडिया आई, वापस नागपुर आई?
Yeah, so I have a very unique story in that my dad had always promised his father कि मैं लौट के आऊँगा, like in the movies. So we tried in 6th grade, and I went to Somalwar, and it didn't fully work out because I couldn't speak. I can speak Hindi and Marathi, but I can't read and write. But I think that if I look back, like Steve Jobs connects the dots, right, in his life, that helped me gain resiliency and strength. Because I fully didn't belong to India because of my accent, right, when I came back in 6th grade. And I fully wasn't American either. So it took me a while to embrace that I'm emerging of the best of both worlds. Apni Indian Sanskriti as well as the progressive thinking of US. And I think that makes me very unique and blessed in a different way,
जिंदगी कैसी है अमेरिका में?
बहुत अच्छी है in terms of just the quality of life, right? The cleanliness, the quality, and also over there's a lot of importance to voice, right? That everybody gets an opportunity to speak their thoughts freely. Religious freedom hai. Obviously things have deteriorated. I'm not Pollyannic about it, but for the most part, even today in Gallup's Strengths Finder results and so forth, America is still considered one of the best places to live, and I have some of the best, most beautiful people that I've met as friends over there.
तो अमेरिका में आप कह रही हैं कि हर किसी को बोलने की आज़ादी है,
Yes. और
उनकी बात को रिस्पेक्ट किया जाता है।
For the
तो क्या वहाँ के लोग अपने देश को लेकर बहुत ज़्यादा समर्पित है? क्या अपने देश से अलग अलग किस्म का लगाव और प्रेम है उन्हें?
That's such a beautiful question, Raj. It could only come from a beautiful person like you, an uplifting question. So yes, I will say that there is a high degree of respect for Indians, especially our spiritual beliefs. because they're so inclusive, right? Like in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no place where Krishna says that, oh, yehi dharm theek hai, baki dusre dharm bekar hai, sab nark mein jayenge, right? So there's so many American people, beautiful American souls that have adopted our Sanskriti, our Sanatan Dharma. And I think that that's really beautiful when people are open-minded like that, right? So Americans are open-minded, they're very welcoming, and in this opportunity to speak, right, to use our voice in ways, they have a high degree of respect. We're very technical, right? Some of the greatest CEOs of organizations are Indians, right? And everybody loves Bollywood dances now and food and everything. So in the beginning when I was there was not that much. In fact, people thought I was Red Indian in the beginning. There were 500 students in elementary school, and there was only one black and one Indian, and that was me. So it was very different. But high degree of respect for that, yes.
लेकिन जब आप वापस अमेरिका गई, तो वापस जब कब गई और जाने की वजह क्या थी?
Okay, so at 6th grade we ended up going back because our house wasn't sold, Raj. We live in Washington DC area, so housing market was not good, so we had to go back, and I got malaria. So then I promised my dad, look, after 12th we'll go back. I promise, you know. So we went back after 12th, and I got admission into Lakshmi Narayan Institute of Technology for chemical engineering. And the running joke in our family is that I took admission in chemical engineering, and I ended up marrying a chemical engineer. So that's what happened. It was
मतलब ये सोची समझी रणनीति थी.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I mean, no, I don't think Raniti thi, because I was a very empowered young lady. I did not want to get married at all. In fact,
Okay.
that was the furthest thing from my mind after seeing my father. वो गुज़र होते हैं ना कि नमक दो, and then my mom would have to pour the namak, and I was like, no way, I'm marrying that. अगर मैं शादी करूँगी, so if I pick up the fork, my husband has to pick up the spoon. Yes. Right. So that was it. My grandfather was freaked out because he said, you know, ये लड़की के विचार कुछ अलग है, ऐसा आदमी कहाँ से मिलेगा उसको? But I found him, my Prince Charming in LIT. He was a senior of mine, Jitendra Jodhpurkar, and he swept me off my feet. We became very good friends first, and then we became married. But celebrating 32 years of beautiful marriage and friendship today. Yes.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And you got your Prince Charming, but he's a king of hearts. He's an amazing man.
Yes,
we all love him.
Yes,
yeah.
He is.
So ये जो एक सोच रही है, जहाँ पर एक तरफ अमेरिकन ड्रीम या अमेरिकन थॉट प्रोसेसेस या वहाँ का कल्चर, और एक तरफ भारत जहाँ पे आपका जन्म हुआ या आपका परिवार नेटिवली यहीं का था, यहाँ की सोच, यहाँ की धारणाएं और यहाँ का कल्चर, इसको बैलेंस मैं जनरली महिलाओं से पूछता हूँ काम और घर कैसे बैलेंस करते हैं. मैं ये पहली बार अपने 1300 एपिसोड्स में पहली बार मैं किसी से ऐसा मिला हूँ जहाँ पर मैं ये पूछ रहा हूँ कि आपने ये कल्चर थॉट्स को कैसे बैलेंस कैसे किया.
Yeah, that's another wonderful question. I think that for me the common thread is humility and learning, if you asked me, in my life. If you approach anyone, any family, any person with humility and a willingness to learn, then you actually get a lot of good qualities and you learn from them, right? So everyone that I've been around, I was not a very talkative person. I was more of an observer since childhood, and that's kind of why I ended up in behavioral scientist as a behavioral scientist. But what I've learned is, so even in Indian culture, like in our house, we kept it totally Indian. And when I went outside of my threshold, then of course I was in an American world, right? I think that what I did was I always tried to see what is the best in people. That is my strength. Like people have intelligence in math, some people have intelligence in literature, and I have some of those, but my super strength is appreciating what is in whatever I see. So I think that that has helped me pick out from Indian culture, the spirituality, the respect, the humility, as well as the hospitality. I've had the blessed opportunity to host people like Vinod Agrawal ji, the bhajan singer. I've had saints come to my house. I've had Vishnu Manohar ji just stay 7 days at my house recently. So I think the aspect of Atithi Deva Bhava is a beautiful concept where you pour your heart out for the individual that comes through your door. Unko Narayan samajh ke. So I think those are beautiful aspects besides the Bhagavad Gita. I have to plug my favorite book. I'm an avid reader, but the best life manual is the Bhagavad Gita, I would say. And then on the Western side, I would say the open-mindedness, right? The ability to learn and design systems and processes that will make the whole, like, look at it from a systems perspective and say, how end to end can we make something that will work well for everyone? Not just एक बंदे के लिए, but सबके लिए अगर process design करना है, तो कौन के किस के हाथ में आएगा, who will benefit, all of it. So those sort of concept, the freedom, the right, the psychological safety, right? कि I give you the full right, I always include you, I ask you for your contribution, and I ask you to learn with me, make mistakes, it's okay. And also the ability to ask questions and challenge, right? This is all from Western culture that I have.
Absolutely.
And I think that with the humility, then it's balanced, right? Because I'm advocating for myself, I'm advocating for others, and the service from the Indian side of me.
But then जो लोग भारत से बाहर जाते हैं,
हाँ.
पहले पढ़ाई करने जाते हैं,
Yeah.
उसके बाद वो व्यवसाय के या नौकरी के लिए जाते हैं,
Yes.
उसके बाद वो वापस नहीं आते हैं
Yeah.
और वापस आने की सोच भी नहीं रखते हैं।
Yeah.
ये और जब सोच बनाते हैं कि मुझे वापस भारत आना है, तो ये बहुत लेट, मतलब इनटू देयर जब भगवान का बस बुलावा आने वाला है, बस उसके कुछ साल पहले ही लोग कहते हैं कि अरे मेरा देश मुझे वापस बुला रहा है,
Yeah.
और वो वापस आते हैं। आप तो बस अपने यंग दिनों में ही आपको ऐसा लगा कि मुझे वापस जाना चाहिए, और वापस पढ़कर जब आपने केमिकल इंजीनियरिंग कर ली थी, तो फिर आप यहाँ रुकी क्यों नहीं, फिर आप वापस क्यों गए?
Yeah, so that's another great question.
All my questions are great.
I know, you're great, Raj. That's the thing.
No, just kidding. Thank you so much.
No,
Ji.
definitely. So here's what happened. Like, I did chemical engineering, but the truth of the matter is, Raj, and that's why my story is my strength, right? To be transparent, I could not make up the math, science needed to pass out of chemical engineering. So because in India, you have 10 years of physics, 10 years of chemistry, and 10 years of higher maths. So by the time your 12th is done, you're ready for the curriculum at LIT with chemical engineering.
Right.
I had 1 year of physics, 1 year of chemistry, because उनकी सोच ही अलग है. They're like, if you're not going to be a chemical engineer, you don't have to go through 10 years of chemistry, right?
Okay.
So in US, you didn't have that expectation. So I didn't realize when I went in that this is what's going to be expected of me. And then the academic system is such that you really don't ask questions, at least in the late 80s, right? Murk samajhte the. Like when I asked my friends, I said to the girls, can I ask a question because I don't understand? That's when they were like, oh no, we don't ask questions here. You just write what the professor says. That's it. So I was like, okay, there was no vehicle, no way for me to say that I'm not catching up on this. But the miracle was, Raj, even though I didn't pass out the first year of chemistry, chemical engineering, the next year with tuitions and everything, I was able to complete a whole year. But for me, career was very important. I'm marrying my best friend, that's great. But I always was a person that worked from the age of 15, various jobs in the US. So, and my dad was one who treated us just like, I don't like the term, but boys. He made us sweep, lawn mow, paint the house, build a deck, whatever. And I love the fact that I'm able to do those things. But so at that time, it was just like, I had a calling in my heart that I want to continue my academics. And that's why I went back. It wasn't that I had an issue with the culture here, because I loved it. The haldi kumkums, the cooking, everything. I love dressing up. I wear my bindi every day and my Mangal Sutra, even in the US. And I have for the last 32 years. So and I love the spirituality, but it was the fact about the academics, because that was, remember I told you I was very independent and that's what I wanted to be able to do. So hence we went back and then went to school and you know had stopped again work for a little while to have children and so my husband could become an executive, you know.
So जब आप वापस गई, आपने वापस से एक नई शुरुआत करी वहाँ पर, बिहेवियरल साइंस इसके प्रति रुचि कहाँ से बढ़ी? ये कहाँ से आ रहा है? केमिकल साइंस तो समझ में आता है कि आपने उसकी पढ़ाई करी, पहले साल आप नहीं कर पाई, अच्छा दूसरे साल आपने अच्छा काम अच्छी पढ़ाई करी और अच्छे नंबर से आप पास हुई, लेकिन वापस जाने के बाद ये एक दिशा.
You know, that's believe me, I'm also very curious how I ended up here, right? So interestingly, Raj, I also not only have an engineering background, but I also have an architecture background.
Oh.
So because mere pitaji he was a professor also at VRCE and in the architecture department. So I went back and my husband and I both got admission into Virginia Tech. And I thought, oh my God, architecture is my thing, right? Because my dad is that, and I wanted to be like his daughter, you know, daddy's girl. And when I started to do architecture, I realized that it's not fully in my heart, right? So at that time, I also got a job as a airline supervisor for a call center. So then I started to, and the regional manager there entrusted me with a team of 60 while I was going to school. And I realized, Raj, that I really liked team leadership. I liked working with people. I love people. And I loved inspiring them to become better and creating organizations that thrive. So I had to kind of tuck my architecture to the side. I worked for 5 years, and then I was expecting my second child, and my husband was like, either you can climb or I can climb, but both of us climbing, and that will really give a hard time to our children, putting them in daycare and the food and everything we have to do in the US ourselves. So then I took a break, and as I was taking a break, I took continuing education classes in leadership. And that's when I kind of got hooked. I was like, you know what, people need to know how to communicate. Because it's not that their intentions are bad, but a lot of times they don't know how to communicate, how to voice, how to inspire others to create, great work, right? So then I started to realize that I could develop a curriculum of leadership that would enable everyone to really be the best leader. ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली पदवी चाहिए है. I have the title, I'm the executive director or whatever. Everyone is a learning leader in my mind. Kahi bhi ho, kitchen mein ho, you're in outside, doing some chores, or in a flower wala, whoever it is, anyone down to, an executive in an organization, everyone's a learning leader, can be. So that's what my concept was. And then, I asked my husband, like once my kids started to grow up, my oldest one started to go into college, I think I want to pursue this. And behind every successful woman is a progressive man. And he has stood behind me day and night, just really encouraging me, allowing me to evolve and develop. Like I was a little bit more quieter on the shy side, but he's encouraged me beyond words. I don't have words for that, right? So it's at that time that I started to go back to school. I redid my undergraduate in leadership development. I had a phenomenal mentor. She was like, you would be so perfect as a change agent, as someone who would consult organizations to improve their dynamics. And then I went on to MS in organizational development and knowledge management. So ऐसे समझ कि we are doctors for an organization. We come in and evaluate कि कौन सी चीजें work नहीं हो रही, so they can do their work effectively. I know that was a mouthful.
No, but then अगर आप ये जो
organizational development, yeah, knowledge management,
अगर आप ये भारत में करना शुरू करें तो बहुत, आप तो बिलियनर बन जाएंगी. बहुत सारा काम है यहाँ पर.
Oh my gosh, you
यहाँ पे लोग अपना काम छोड़ के बाकी सबका काम कर लेते हैं.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. I just did a session at Simple CRM at Indranil Fuke and Sono's organization. And it was such a hit. We couldn't stop, actually. It was supposed to be a 1 hour engagement. It went to 2 hours, and the people there were so wonderful, you know.
ये गीता के साथ जो आपका कनेक्ट है, भगवत गीता के साथ,
My
you always carry it
Yes.
also with you.
Yes.
भगवत गीता के साथ जो आपका कनेक्शन है,
Yeah.
ये कनेक्शन कैसे बैठता है?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question too. I mean, sometimes everyone, like, kahi bhi ho, right? Videsh mein ho, yahan ho, Bharat mein, we all have challenges in our lives, right? Difficulties. And there was a period where my daughter was not well at all. So I had to find a way to cope with the situation. And that's when we both did, my husband and I. And that's when my husband picked up the Gita as a way of thinking, right? Because there's no one that could answer my questions about why something would happen to someone who's so innocent, right? And I had to find a way to deal calmly with whatever I was facing, right? So I think at that time, you know, there were obviously various gurus, Ramakrishna Mission and so forth, that Paramhans Yogananda, you know, great luminaries, right, in the field, Sri Ravi Shankar and so forth. And, you know, everyone's essence of their thoughts comes from the Gita, which is the Sar of the Upanishad. And it's at that time, and I wanted to empower my daughter and my son. So I started to teach children the Gita and young adults. And believe it or not, I started with 2 students, Mohini Jodhpurkar and Kana Jodhpurkar, and then I've expanded to over 500 children over the years.
Wow.
So for the 15 years, I've been doing classes. My husband does for adults sessions. It's called Gita Reflections or GitaYog.org. And I will tell you, there is no other greater manual than this. And all you need to do is read it and evaluate it yourself. I know there's lots of saints that have done interpretations on it, but my premise for my request to all children is read it as if it's true. Don't read it as if, how is it not true? If you approach the Gita with that kind of curiosity and mindset, then what ends up happening is it reveals its message to you. And it has made me so strong, Raj, that, you know, a few years back, I know my relatives who are watching now, 7 or 8, maybe 8, 9 years ago, my dad passed away here in Nagpur. He wanted to. They lived with me for 20 years. They would come back here in the winter time because it was cold there. And we had to make the difficult decision, my sister and I and my mom, to unplug him from a machine and bring him home. And as a good daughter, I can say that I sleep every night, knowing that I didn't give my dad food, water, medicine, let him just basically without oxygen, breathe on his own, and pass gently within 12 hours. It would have never happened if I did not have this book in the way that it did, that I feel comfortable, that unka sharir chala gaya, but unki atma moved on in a good way. We were able to read I was able to read all 18 chapters for him before he passed. So this is my source of strength. This and my Krishna, and of course my husband, you know.
ये जो ज्ञान है, जो केमिकल साइंस से आता है या बिहेवियरल साइंस से आता है या ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल डेवलपमेंट एंड स्ट्रैटेजी मेकिंग या इससे आता है, और जो परम ज्ञान है भगवत गीता से जो आता है, इसका रस आप कितना एंजॉय करती हैं?
Totally. I mean, totally. It's my flow. Like whether I'm teaching my Gita classes, and I try to make it hands-on, Raj, because what happens is we learn very well when we're actively doing. Like, you know, I think there's some Tao Latso quote that I see and I forget and all this, but when I do, I learn, right? So I think that the essence of this is like that I'm divine. And it took me a while to realize that I am divine, that I need to love myself first. Like if I want to love anyone, my husband, my children, fully, completely, or anyone that's in the world, right? Because everyone's an aspect of the divine, then I have to learn to love myself. And I think I wasn't as kind to myself internally for the longest time. Man ki awaaz, right? Krishna says in the Gita that you have your best friend in your head and in the world inside of you, and you have your worst enemy.
Right.
And it took me a while to do that mastery, right? To evolve myself to that point to realize there's tremendous strengths in there. So I would say that through behavioral science, I've learned that approach things with curiosity. You know, don't approach it with judgment. From the engineering and architecture background, I've learned that you can design systems and processes so that you can enable your success, right? And from the Gita, I've learned to love everyone and accept them and meet them where they're at. Like, not expecting someone in front of me, my kids, my husband, my daughter, to change, but how can I enable, like, learn from them what their strengths are, learn my blind spots, right? There's a lot, like, jo mere mein kami hai, jo improve karna chahiye, and really be just cheerfully, you know, give as much love as you can and live life, right?
But ये जो पूरा का पूरा जो आपने सीखा, आपका जो एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, क्या ये इसीलिए आपको कहीं ना कहीं ऐसा लगा कि शेयर आवर स्ट्रेंथ एंड इस किस्म का एक इससे आप जुड़ें और भारत आकर अक्षय पात्र के साथ मिलके बच्चों के लिए ये शुरू करें, जहाँ पर 1 साल तक बच्चों को खाना मिले, ऐसे बच्चों को जो प्रिविलेज नहीं है उतने।
So
क्या ये सब चीज़ें वहीं से आती हैं? क्या ये जो जीवन का एक मूल्य है ये वहीं से सीखने को मिलता है?
It does, because here's what I'll tell you. The Gita is always about uplifting and higher purpose. Look, even animals eat, sleep, drink, have some sort of shelter, right? अगर मानव जन्म मिला है, 84 लाख योनियों के बाद, right? After, millions of lifetimes, you've earned this privilege. And on top of that, Bharat Bhumi mein janam, like you're exposed to spirituality. Then it becomes like, I feel like God has graced me so much with this back and forth, with this beautiful life, right? With so much love in it, that you have to give back. It farz badta hai. And my husband coined a phrase, and I really love it, that you'll never be more satisfied in life until you contribute more than you consume. And I really resonate with that, and I always try to do more, like employer ho, in-laws ho, bhai behan ho, do more for them than what I try to, than what I receive. And I think when you're able to do that in life, there's a joy, because that's what your soul craves, giving back. And I share our strength. जब मेरे husband ने last year March में बोला था कि I'm thinking of taking this role after being an executive for so many years, I was like, go for it, because he always felt like मेरा spiritual life and my material life never merged, work ka life. So this enabled him to align with his spiritual beliefs and do something back. And children, to me, are the most vulnerable. कोई उनको represent करने के, they're voiceless, right? So this is a unique opportunity that we're able to be the voice of the voiceless, and it's not some savior, it's an opportunity to अपने जीवन का उद्धार करने के लिए. And I deeply thank Nagpur for all the support that they gave my husband, all the wonderful restaurateurs, the chefs, the musicians, and every single Nagarik that came and bought a ticket, as well as those that just gave us good wishes and blessings, because we need those, right? So thank you for that.
ये जो मी टाइम होता है आपका, ये मी टाइम क्या होता है, उसमें क्या करती हैं माधवी जोधपुरकर?
Yes, so me time I love me time, and every woman should take me time. It's very important to do that. You have to disconnect from your family and go on a trip with your girlfriends, or I even do things like Mon Shibir for 4 or 5 days. I just recently did one in December, and it helps you to kind of just relax without responsibilities. And my son was like, couldn't you just relax in your own home? And I was like, no, because for women it's different. You can't unplug from the kitchen. You can't unplug from, my mom needs some food, my son needs some food, so, or my husband, should I go grocery shopping? So it's really important to take some quality time for yourself. It's really important to develop something for yourself besides your home. And I have always been strategic around that. I said, okay, if I'm going to have my kids, I'm going to go to classes and I'm going to teach, right, on the side for non-profit, for muft mein. If I'm, so that, you know, jaise Krishna ne Pandav ko bola tha na, when they were in 13 years of hidden, right, they had to hide. And he says, well, this is the time that you want to do abhyas and you want to practice. So I applaud the ladies that work. I applaud the ladies that stay at home. If you're at home, then get more ban in your tunir, right? Get your sharpen your saw, as they say, Stephen Covey says. Get your skills ready and make a plan for yourself. Ki what happens after the kids leave? Because I will tell you, otherwise, if I didn't have my academics and then this new pathway in the career, it would have been, I would have obsessed over Mohini and Ghana, and they would have wanted, we would have damaged our relationship 100%. So have that ready for you. Take time. Do things like get your nails done, get a spa, once a month, facial. Go and hang out and just go shopping, window shopping with yourself, right? And it's not necessary that you have friends all the time. Here's what I'll say. You have to learn to be with yourself by yourself. And that's one of the biggest lessons. Like, just play music and dance in the house. Uplift yourself in whatever way that you want to. Take an art class. Art is very healing. I do that a lot, like crafts. I find great joy in that. So make some hobbies. My biggest hobby right now is self-improvement. Like, people ask me, what's your hobby? Oh, I like gardening, I like music, I like singing. But I was like, my biggest hobby right now is myself. Yeah, self-improvement. Because, and that helps many people, not just me. It helps my husband, it helps my kids. So if you're able to, like a scientist, step back and say, ooh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why am I feeling this way? Not why questions. Why questions put up defenses in the mind, but always ask what questions. What's causing this? It's super important. Go to a movie, go to a theater, but must make me time. And also, I would say for husbands and wives, I have a very successful marriage for 32 years. Make together time. You must take time off to keep the romance alive, to enjoy each other's company, because I'll tell you what happens is after these kids leave the house, you don't want to be so far away from each other, like, because the woman is taking care of kids and work and cooking, that you don't know each other.
Absolutely.
And, right? So you must take that time. I urge you all.
ये आपने कहा 32 साल का विवाह है आपका. Marriage as an institution, the husband learns a lot from the wife, probably every day. Yeah. आपने जीतू सर से क्या सीखा?
So I would say love, first of all, unconditional love. Like, even on my bad days and not so nice days, I've always tried to be kind and respectful. That's something that I've been born with, and my parents raised me that way. But I would say that love is the highest. The other thing that I've learned is spirituality. He is also my spiritual guru right now for all things Gita, all things Krishna. And I think the biggest gift, and I remember Jitu and I were talking before even Mohini and Kana were born, and he goes, Madhavi, the greatest inheritance I want to leave my kids is the ability to think. Paise waise wo to kama lenge, right? They'll earn that in their time. And I really thought that was intriguing. And he said that, because I never had that, I had to develop that on my own. And what he does is he has a range. He looks at the range of thoughts. I was raised in a way that my dad prepared for the worst, and my mom prepared for the best. There were two different personalities, but there's a range of thoughts in between, and the nuances of thinking I learned from my husband. The nuances of what direction should we go in, and then really appreciating that you have to go there. You have to go to your worst thought, you have to go to your best thought, you have to think of everything in between, and then select a good path forward that your heart feels, not your mind. Your heart feels good going forward. Kind of taking in the data from the mind, right? So I would say the biggest gift was his thinking. And then the last thing was just empowering. Like he's always happy and cheerful. And he's able to keep his equal poise, especially, I would say, in the 15 years that he's been a Gita practitioner, a Krishna Premi, he's been able to keep equal poise. And we've had, like, I can't unpack it all, right? Har ek ke jeevan mein hote, COVID ke samay, yes, we all have, you know, different challenges. Koi bhi bacha nahi hai, right? So he's kept his equal poise through organizational challenges, through personal challenges, all throughout. And I think his cheerfulness and his equal poise is what and I could go on about you. I'm his biggest fan, so.
I'm also one.
Okay. Yes.
So
you gotta get in line though, guys. I'm sorry, I'm number one. Although the other Raj Jodhpurkar will probably fight with me about who's first.
Okay, so I may be number 3, but I'm happy with it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the big dream? I really want to come up to that.
Okay.
What's the big dream? माधवी जोधपुरकर क्या करना चाहते हैं जीवन में? और क्या?
You know, it's like that song. दिल है छोटा सा, छोटी सी आशा, मस्ती भर मन की भोली सी आशा. So I would say my hope is that anyone that I come into contact with, that they feel better about themselves than they did before they had interactions with me. So there's a very famous philosopher, amazing woman called Maya Angelou, and I had the blessed fortune of meeting her in person when I was at Virginia Tech studying architecture. And at her feet, I heard her say, you know, people will forget what you did and what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So
Absolutely.
I want people to feel good about themselves. This is one life, right? And there is enough people criticizing and finding out what is wrong and what's not working. My lens in life is to be appreciative, to appreciate people for who they are and what they are, and make them feel good about themselves and not phoniness, right? अपने को चने के झाड़ के ऊपर किसी को चढ़ाना नहीं है, right? I want people to feel good about themselves because genuinely the voices in the head are not kind, right?
Absolutely.
We are our own worst enemy. Like Raj, if I was feeling bad, you would be very kind to me, right? But sometimes internally when we're having that dialogue, we're not as kind with each other, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that's the big dream, is to make people feel good about themselves. And I really hope that, you know, this initiative that we're working on with Share Our Strength, Feed the Future now in India, that's my big hope, that we really make an impact on every single child that doesn't have a meal. Because every child deserves a meal, right?
Absolutely.
And we sometimes senselessly throw food so much, right? वही बच्चे खाए तो कितना उनके, like, you know, they deserve education, especially young girls, right? If they don't have education, then they're not empowered to be independent, to earn money, to bring more for their families, right? So it's cycling, right? So I think it's very important. The big dream is, you know, with Share Our Strength and Feed the Future now. And the big dream for me personally is to become a humbler, kinder, a true devotee of the Lord, Krishna, and live the Gita actually.
अगर एक जिंदगी की सुनहरी किताब लिखी गई, उस किताब के एक सुनहरे पन्ने पर ये नाम लिखा गया, माधवी लोखंडे जोधपुरकर, उस नाम के नीचे कौन सी ऐसी लाइन, कौन सा ऐसा कोट, कौन सा ऐसा पर्सपेक्टिव, कौन सा ऐसा थॉट, कौन सी ऐसी बात लिखी रहनी चाहिए जिसे पढ़ने के बाद लोग आपको हमेशा याद करें?
So I would say that I would really want that I gave as much love to as many people as I could, and I wasn't stuck on my hekdi nahi thi ki on my own attitude or my way, that I went with the flow. And so if I have a coin phrase, I say, I live to give, intend to bend, that means be humble, and love to serve. So that's if I can live that way and love God through every single person through my behavior, that would be the biggest gift that you know, for me at the last breath.
देखिए, सबसे जो अलग बात थी इस पूरे के पूरे इंटरव्यू में वो ये था कि आप वो कह रही थी जो आप हमेशा महसूस करते हैं, जो आपने अपनी ज़िंदगी देखी, जो आपकी जर्नी रही, जिस तरह से आपने व्यक्त की वो इतनी सरल तरीके से आपने व्यक्त की जिसकी कोई हद नहीं। आपने हमें ना ही सिर्फ वो जो स्ट्रगलिंग टाइम था ना उसको भी आपने इतनी सरलता से हमें समझाया कि लोग अपने स्ट्रगल को, इस शब्द को ही इतनी डिफिकल्टी से देखते हैं और अंदर ही अंदर इतने ज़्यादा उदासीन हो जाते हैं जब उनकी ज़िंदगी में एक ऐसा पल आता है जहाँ पर वो बड़े बड़े ऑब्स्टिकल्स पार नहीं कर पाते या करने की जब कोशिश करते हैं तो बड़ी मेहनत लगती है, कड़ी मेहनत लगती है जब वो पार करते हैं। लेकिन आपने इतनी मुस्कान के साथ, इतनी सरलता के साथ ये पूरी की पूरी जर्नी इतनी खूबसूरती से जी है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आपकी कहानी हज़ारों महिलाओं तक जब पहुँचेगी तो वो आई एम श्योर उन्हें जीवन जीने का एक नया सलीका सिखाएगी। आप ऐसे ही भगवत गीता के पाठ लोगों तक पहुंचाएं, आप ऐसे ही लोगों को ज़िंदगी जीना सिखाएं, आप ऐसे ही लोगों की ज़िंदगियों में एक इंस्पिरेशन बन के रहें। आपने अपना वक्त दिया, आपने हमसे बात करी, आपने हमें इंस्पायर किया, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सो मच।
Yeah, thank you, Raj Bhaiya. This was an amazing opportunity, and truth be told, you are an amazing individual to do this kind of work and provide this kind of platform because women really need it. And I'm humbled by your kind words. I don't feel like I fully step into those, but yeah, it is. I'm straightforward. My head, hand, and heart are always. I try to align them. जो जैसी है वैसी है, perfectly imperfect.
नहीं, लेकिन जब आपका नाम रखा गया था बहुत सोच समझ के रखा गया था। आपके नाम के पहले 2 अक्षर ही में ही माँ है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो माँ ने करना चाहिए आप वही कर रहे हैं। आपने अपना वक्त दिया, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू। माधवी जोधपुरकर मैम से बात हुई, मुलाकात हुई। विमेन ऑफ द ईयर, शायद आज सुपर विमेन ऑफ द ईयर वाला शो हुआ है आज ऑन राज की बात। एक बड़ी खूबसूरत लाइनें जावेद अख्तर साहब ने एक पेन के एक एडवर्टाइजमेंट के लिए लिखी थी और वो बड़ा पेन पता नहीं पॉपुलर हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, लेकिन वो लाइनें बड़ी पॉपुलर हुए, वो एडवर्टाइजमेंट बड़ा पॉपुलर हुआ था, 90 के दशक में आया था। और उसमें जावेद अख्तर साहब लिखते हैं कि ज़िंदगी है तो ख्वाब है, ख्वाब हैं तो मंजिलें, मंजिलें हैं तो रास्ते हैं, रास्ते हैं तो फासले हैं, फासले हैं तो मुश्किलें हैं, मुश्किलें हैं तो हौसला है, और हौसला है तो विश्वास है, क्योंकि एक फाइटर हमेशा जीतता है। अब एक फाइटर की जो ज़िंदगी होती है ना, अगर आप देखें एक फाइटर को अगर इमेजिन करें तो वो फाइटर क्या करता होगा, वो एक रोज़ कोशिश करता होगा। माधवी जोधपुरकर मैम वही तो कर रही हैं, रोज़ एक कोशिश। क्या हम अपनी ज़िंदगी में इस किस्म की कोशिश करते हैं? सिर्फ हम अपनी ज़िंदगी को खूबसूरत बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन क्या कभी हमने ये कोशिश की कि हम किसी और की ज़िंदगी को खूबसूरत बनाएं? BNI नाम का एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वो उनका ये की पॉलिसी है, गिवर्स गेन। अगर आप दूसरों के लिए करोगे तो आपके लिए अपने आप चीज़ें हो जाएंगी। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप अपने लिए खुद कुछ भी ना करें, लेकिन आप अगर खुद के लिए कुछ कर रहे हैं तो दूसरों का न भूलें। कृपया दूसरों को भी उतनी ही तवज्जो दें, इम्पोर्टेंस दें। किसी को दर्द में देखें, अगर कुछ दे नहीं सकते तो कम से कम साथ खड़े रहिए। किसी की मदद कर सकते हैं तो रुक के मदद कीजिए, क्योंकि जितनी आप मदद करेंगे उससे 10 गुना मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा इसकी कोई गारंटी नहीं है, लेकिन आपको ब्लेसिंग ज़रूर मिलेगी, किसी के चेहरे में मुस्कान ज़रूर आएगी, और इससे खूबसूरत बात और क्या हो सकती है। आपसे फिर होगी मुलाकात इन राज की बात। तब तक आप अपना ध्यान रखें, सुरक्षित रहें, स्वच्छ रहें, स्वस्थ रहें, मस्त रहें, खुश रहें, व्यस्त रहें, परिवार के साथ एक अच्छा वक्त बिताएं। और अगर आपके परिवार में एक बेटी है जो दूसरे के दर्द को समझती है, दूसरे के दर्द को महसूस करती है और उस दर्द को हील करने की कोशिश करती है, तो समझिए वो माधवी जोधपुरकर बन रही है। जिंदा रहें। जय हिंद।